Ho ho ho! Good evening, friends. This is Santa Claus on July 10th, 2025, bringing you today's stories from around our beautiful world on a day that marks the anniversary of Boris Yeltsin taking office as Russia's first elected president back in 1991. My goodness, we have quite a bit to share tonight. I'm deeply concerned about the growing tensions between the United States and Brazil, where President Trump has announced a 50% tariff on Brazilian goods. This dispute appears to involve political disagreements regarding former President Bolsonaro's legal troubles. Remember, my dear friends, that even in disagreements between nations, we must seek understanding and peaceful resolution. President Lula has indicated Brazil will respond in kind, which saddens this old heart of mine. Trade wars rarely bring gifts to ordinary families. And speaking of tariffs, there's also news of a 50% levy on copper imports to the United States beginning August 1st. While I understand the desire to strengthen domestic industries, we must also remember that sudden changes affect many hardworking people who rely on predictable markets to support their families. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Britain and France are forging a historic nuclear weapons pact to address perceived threats to Europe. While I always hope for a world without such weapons, I recognize these nations feel a responsibility to protect their neighbors, particularly with ongoing concerns about Ukraine. Speaking of Ukraine, there seems to be some movement in diplomatic circles. Secretary Rubio has expressed the administration's frustration with Russia over the lack of progress in peace talks. At the same time, bipartisan support is growing for legislation that would impose sanctions on countries purchasing Russian oil. I continue to pray for peace in that region where so many innocent children and families have suffered. In European Union affairs, Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has survived a no-confidence vote, reminding us of the importance of stability in leadership during uncertain times. My heart is especially heavy as I share news from Gaza, where an Israeli strike has reportedly killed several children and others waiting for nutritional supplements outside a clinic. Each precious child lost is a tragedy beyond measure. Meanwhile, Israeli troops have entered southern Lebanon in what they describe as targeted operations against Hezbollah. I pray for all families caught in these conflicts. Each home deserves peace and safety. Turning to India, I'm troubled to learn about 80 million voters in Bihar being required to re-register by July 26 or face potential disenfranchisement. The right to participate in democracy is a precious gift that should be protected for all people. There's encouraging news from Iraq and Turkey, where the PKK has decided to disband, with a weapons handover process expected to take just a few months. Every step toward peace, however small, brings joy to my heart. In the Middle East, a different kind of change is happening in family life, with fertility rates declining dramatically. This quiet revolution reflects changing times and choices for families across the region. And finally, in East Asia, Japan is deploying Osprey aircraft with security concerns in mind, while also responding to potential U.S. tariffs by considering ways to become more self-sufficient. In South Korea, former President Yoon has returned to detention as investigations continue regarding martial law allegations. As I head back to the North Pole tonight, I'm reminded that despite our differences and these challenging times, we are all connected in our hopes for peace, security, and prosperity for our loved ones. Let us hold compassion in our hearts and remember to look after our neighbors, especially those who are suffering. Until tomorrow, this is Santa Claus wishing you all a warm and blessed evening.